is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you got to take care of business. Welcome in. We are live here on this Friday as we're getting you set for the weekend. A lot to get to here, including the Braves starting a 3-game series with the Miami Marlins. All the hubbub around NIL and college football. Of course, we will continue that discussion going forward. And why possibly what Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher did might be good for college football. We'll tell you that coming up here in a little bit. But I do want to start today on this Friday with the Atlanta Falcons and some gambling stuff. Well, because you know me. I mean, I'm into gambling. And a lot of people now are starting to put out their season win total, handicaps and looking at, whether teams will go over or under their win total and whatnot. And so I began to look at some of the teams and teams that I think will go over and under, their win total. But, that's a whole different kind of conversation. By the way, take the Ravens over 9.5. It's one of my favorite bets. That said, when the Falcons number comes out, or when it came out, I should say, it was at 4.5. And a lot of people's like, okay, that figures. This looks like a 3 or 4 win team. Clearly they, change quarterbacks and they're going with a backup guy, a Marcus Mariota, or it's a rookie. Obviously their defense is bad and, all those things. And so I began to look at some ways that the Falcons could get 5 wins on their schedule and maybe not be as bad as the experts in Vegas predict. And I came across a tweet from Warren Sharp. If you guys don't know who Warren Sharp is, follow him on Twitter at SharpFootball. Of course, follow me at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno, and follow us at Locked On ATL. I forgot to mention that before. Sorry to digress, but here we go. He posted a tweet about the win-loss record versus teams with a winning record in 2021. So what they finished as with their team is against teams with other winning records when it was all said and done. Now, let me give you the teams at the top. All right. And I will see if you can quickly figure out the thread here. Tennessee, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, KC, Arizona, Las Vegas, Cincinnati, Dallas, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Chargers. The only one of those teams on that list that did not make the playoffs was the Chargers. And in reality, they should have made the playoffs if all their dumb coach would have done was just kneel on it in overtime and tied the Raiders. They both would have went to the playoffs and the Pittsburgh Steelers would have went home. So that said, the only team, and all those teams, by the way, were 500 or better against teams with a winning record. When you look at the teams with a below 500 record against winning football teams last year, New Orleans, San Francisco made the playoffs, San Fran. New Orleans missed, right? Seattle missed. Minnesota missed. Miami missed. Detroit missed. New England makes it. Baltimore missed. Jacksonville missed. Giants missed. Steelers, we told you about them. They shouldn't have made it. Chicago missed. Cleveland missed. Denver missed. Atlanta missed. Carolina missed. Washington missed. Houston missed. New Jets missed. And Philadelphia somehow with a 1-7 record made the playoffs. That's the outlier. And they did it in, arguably one of the worst divisions in football. And for the record, the Falcons last year went 2-8 against teams with a winning record. That means in their 7-10 finish, they went 5-2 against teams with a losing record. And that's why I said at the top of the show, take care of business. The Falcons don't have to be great this year, but what they need to do is beat the Seahawks, beat the Panthers, beat the Bears, possibly beat the Commanders. Who knows? They have a whole new quarterback situation going on. I would argue they have to beat the Steelers. And that's 5 right there. Could they beat the Browns? Maybe, if Deshaun Watson is suspended, which is probably going to be the scenario there, and possibly split with the Saints, who have quarterback issues. So are there 5 wins on the Falcons schedule? Yeah. Are they all going to be against teams with losing records? Yeah. Are the Falcons going to beat any team with a winning record? Probably not. And if they do, it'll probably be a division opponent like the Saints who ends up finishing 9-8, right? Like, they may steal a win against somebody slipping up like the Chargers who are going East Coast or West Coast to East. Maybe the Cardinals late in the year. The Cardinals in December are awful. Every year they lose games in December. They shouldn't. That's because their coach stinks. But that said, would they be able to do that? Yeah, they may be able to. But if I told you that this season the Falcons would beat 5 or 6 teams that had a losing record when it was all said and done, you would go, okay, that's not bad. If they win 6 games, that'd be actually like impressive, because a lot of people are thinking this is a 4-win team, maybe even a 3-win team. But if they win 6 games, that's impressive. If they only lose one more game than they lost last year, that's a huge win for Arthur Smith, for a team that is in a complete rebuild. Shh, don't say that. They don't want you to know they're in a rebuild. They're still kind of hiding it. But anyway, for a team that's in a complete rebuild, for them to only lose one less game than they did last year with Matt Ryan at the helm speaks a lot to the coach. Speaks even more to the GM that they were able to find players that could be competitive. And that is something I think that can't be underscored. Now, if they only win 3 or 4 games, no one's really going to blame anybody. No one's going to be held accountable because this team isn't expected to do anything. But if they get to 5 or 6 wins, it's like, okay. In reality, it's one of those things that will start to nitpick how you lose over how much you lose. Because how you lose always matters. I've said it for years, folks. How you win never matters. Doesn't matter what lucky bounce you get. Doesn't matter if a fan reaches over the wall and steals a home run. Doesn't matter if the ref makes a bad call. How you win never, ever, ever matters. How you lose always matters. And so we'll start to dissect it when it's all said and done. And again, we're getting way out in front of ourselves here. But it was just when I saw the stat and I saw what the Falcons were against teams with a winning record last year, it made me think that if they win 5 games this year against teams that end up being below 500 teams, that's a real, I think that's a positive for them. I really, really do. Nobody should expect them to go out and beat the Rams or the Niners or even the Ravens or the Buccaneers twice. Like, no one should expect that. No one should expect them to beat the Chargers with all the talent that they have acquired this offseason. No one should expect them to beat the defending AFC champs. Like, if you do that, great, feather in your cap, but no one's expecting that. I would expect them to get a couple of wins against really bad teams, though, with really bad quarterbacks. You got to beat Mitch Trubisky, right? You got to beat Justin Fields. You have to beat Sam Darnold or whoever Carolina is starting, and probably Jameis Winston. If you don't have enough, and especially with 2 chances in the division, to split with the Saints and split with the Panthers, if you don't have enough of that, then you have to start looking at the coach and the GM and going, what really is going on here? Because if you can't beat those caliber of quarterbacks, then you are talent devoid and there is something amiss coaching-wise. I think that's completely fair to say. All right, coming up next, why maybe what Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher have started is really good for college football and NIL. That is coming up next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta. We'll be right back.